What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about snipers and going over some tips that will hopefully help you snipe better in Fortnite Chapter 5. As always, if you guys do find this video helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below which site you like to use most on the snipers. My choice is going to be the 2x site. And this is probably the topic that I've been asked to make a video about the most in Chapter 5. And it's actually one of the hardest things to make a video about, I think, because at the end of the day, sniping just boils down to putting your crosshair where it needs to be and then hitting the shoot button. And there's not really that much I can tell you that's going to suddenly make you better at doing that. Aim just kind of comes down to like muscle memory and mechanical skill and like familiarity with your sensitivity and how it feels. And then also the bullet drop in game, I think also just comes down to muscle memory and being used to it and understanding, how much you need to lead based on the target. So bullet drop is something that you need to be aware of with pretty much every weapon in Chapter 5, but it matters so much more on the snipers, I think, because you can't adjust in real time. If you're shooting an AR at somebody, you can kind of see like, okay, my bullets aren't hitting them. I need to aim a little more up or a little more in front of them, and you can adjust in real time. Whereas snipers, you shoot, and then you have that bolt action delay where you have to wait to be able to shoot again. And a lot of times just you get one shot and then like the situation completely changes, So understanding the bullet drop and being able to, quickly decide where to put your crosshair and shoot and predict what you need to do is huge. I've seen people kind of talk about using the notches on the scope and the range of the opponent to kind of better gauge how much they need to lead. Like if the person is 100 meters away, use this notch. If they're 200 meters away, use this notch, so on and so forth. And if that works for you, that's great, but I think it's much better to just play and get a feel for the bullet drop by playing and getting like very used to it and accustomed to using the weapon, because in most fights, you're not just going to be fighting against somebody that stands still and looks at you from like 200 meters away and doesn't move and is just kind of standing there long enough for you to mark them, see that it's 200 meters, and then, aim appropriately with the notches. That's just not going to happen very often, and if somebody is playing like that, it's probably not a fight that matters very much, you know what I mean? And I'm sure like me saying just, play and get used to it is kind of frustrating if you wanted like a concrete answer on the bullet drop, but I think that is very like just something that you have to get a feel for and really understand, because when you're actually playing the game, you're going to be dealing with a variety of different situations versus opponents moving at varying distances at varying speeds, and all of that affects how you'll have to lead the shot. If someone's moving slower, you'll need to lead differently than if they're like shockwaving or sprinting or things of that nature. There's people that jump randomly, and predicting that based on how they're moving can be tough. So I think you just need to play a lot and really understand the bullet drop to be able to quickly make a decision in those moments and like properly, hit the shot. So aim and bullet drop, I think you just have to play a lot and get used to it, and play a lot with the weapon and get used to it. And the more used to it you are and the more comfortable you are with your sensitivity, the better you're going to be at aiming. As far as attachments go, I think you should just use whatever sight you feel most comfortable with. But keep in mind, as of the time I'm recording this, only the 4x scope has glint. I still see this argument pretty much every day. And when I stream on Twitch, it's brought up at some point every day. I'll have a clip on screen now in a custom match of me dropping my friend a 4x sniper. And you can see that when they look at me, there is glint. And then I'll aim in with a 2x and drop them this 2x sniper. And you'll see that when they aim at me with the 2x sniper, there is no glint. I like the 2x most personally. That's just what I feel like I'm best at hitting shots with consistently. And if you feel most comfortable with the 4x, I think that's just what you should use regardless of sniper glint. The sight that is going to allow you to hit more shots is going to be better than the one that you don't hit any shots with. And then the red dots also obviously have no glint as well. So the glint mechanic, where there's like the light when someone's aiming in, is tied to the 4x scope. It has nothing to do with the 2x or the sniper itself. You can even put 4x on an AR and it will have the glint or the light when someone's aiming in. The mag choice doesn't really matter. I think both are fine. If you want to go fast mag or extended mag, that's great. Angled foregrip will make you aim in faster, and I think this attachment is the best in-slot attachment because the weapon doesn't really have recoil, so you don't need the vertical foregrip. Aiming in faster will make it easier for you to pop in and out of cover and just quickly throw out shots, which is I think what you want to be doing with the sniper. And then I also think that the suppressor is super good. I've seen confusion on people thinking it affects the bullet travel speed or makes the bullet slower. That is not the case as far as I know. The suppressors reduce range in Fortnite Chapter 5, but that has nothing to do with bullet drop. The range stat is just at what range damage fall off occurs. So if a gun is going to drop from like 10 damage to 9 damage at X meters, it'll happen a little bit sooner because of the suppressor. But that doesn't matter with the snipers in this game because they're always a one hit to the head no matter what, and 100-ish body damage. So like I don't really care about the suppressor reducing my range slightly. And that final point is also why I don't really care about the rarity of snipers at all. Even the green one will one hit to the head and do like ballpark same body damage as the others as of the time I'm recording this. Maybe that's something that will change in the future, but as of now, I would much rather have a green sniper with the attachments I like than a gold one with the attachments that I don't like. And the biggest mistake I see a lot of people make with snipers in this game is that they either peek for way too long or they peek from the same angle way too much. Like I said earlier, I kind of like to just peek for as little as possible, throw out a shot, and then get back to safety. You know, obviously, if you're fighting someone who doesn't know you're there or isn't paying attention to you or is distracted with something else, you can kind of take your time up. You can take your time and make sure you actually hit the shot. But in those like mid to long range, like sniper v sniper fights, or even if you're just fighting an AR player, one of the main advantages of the sniper is that it can deal really high damage in a very short time frame. You can be exposed for a millisecond and throw out an insta kill or throw out, 100 body damage, and you want to take advantage of that as much as possible. I'm sure we've all seen those people that just kind of like stand there like a statue, aiming in with their 4x sniper glint, just not moving at all. And you don't want to do that because that makes it so much easier for the other player to just snipe you. And in most multiplayer shooters, the person peeking has an advantage on the person just holding the angle. In AR versus AR, this doesn't matter as much, but since the sniper is an insta-kill, it matters a lot. So just don't try to, peek for way too long. It makes it easier for other people to snipe you. And then same goes for peeking the same angles. If you're peeking the same angle over and over and over again, it's going to be much easier for someone to predict what you're doing versus if you kind of vary up your angles and use different pieces of cover. Like let's say you're peeking from a rock, maybe you peek from the right side of the rock and then you peek from the top and then you go back to the right. Just mix it up and try to throw your opponent off as much as possible. And try to peek from the right as much as possible because the way the camera is in Fortnite, you have to expose less of your character if you're peeking from the right side of cover versus when you're peeking from the left side of cover. So there might be times where a left shoulder peek would be like good, but you don't want to do that often. And you can also like crouch peek in some situations if you're using like a hill or peeking from the top of the rock. Like I said, you can kind of use crouching, like your character standing up, to make your peeks if that's something that helps. And then I think using cars is also going to be great with the snipers in Chapter 5 because you can drive around, kind of get out of your car, peek from the back right of your car, throw out a shot, and then hit your get in the car button and just get back in. And you can kind of rinse and repeat and keep doing this and kind of make it confusing for the opponent to guess when you're going to get out of the car. And you can actually line up your shot through the car's windows if you do have an opponent that's just kind of standing still holding an angle. So you can like kind of line up the shot as far as like vertically where they are and then just slide out from behind the cover, and it should be lined up already pretty good. I do that quite a bit, and it's very helpful when you're able to get it to work. This is also something people used to do back in the day in build mode, because when you would damage builds, they would become like transparent, and people would use that to line up snipes like way back in the day. And you could do the same thing with like any sort of like windows from the car, because the glass will actually block a shot if it hasn't been broken yet. And then some final things I want to touch on that may help you win more sniper fights or just more fights in Chapter 5 is going to be that assume players have snipers, whether or not they've shot you with it or not, or whether or not they have glint. Like I talked about, not all of the attachments show glint, so just don't assume, oh, this person has no glint, I can peek for as long as possible. Just assume a lot of people have snipers because they probably do. Fighting super long range fights in team game modes oftentimes isn't worth it. Like I've played games and like my teammates will want to like, we're like 100, 150 meters away from island, and they'll want to like snipe at the people on top of island. And it's great if you hit the shot and you get an insta knock. But even if you get that knock, what are you really going to do with that? Because by the time you push that distance and then get up to island or get up to the mountain, wherever the person is, that like large distance makes it way less likely that you're going to be able to do anything with that knock. And then the downside is just like more problematic for your team, especially if you're fighting on island. Island is like the main time when this happens, because like island team can launch pad down to you, where it's like harder for the other people to push up to island if it already is a vast distance away. So just, I try not to engage in those like super long distance snipe fights. I think they're kind of pointless. And then these snipers are also insane at close to medium range. Don't just think that of it as like a super long range weapon. You can use these in medium range, and they're oftentimes going to be more effective than the ARs. That's one of like the problems with this season, I think. If you're on controller, moving your character to aim can be hugely beneficial, because it can be hard to make small adjustments with just the right stick. But if you move your character left to right, it'll kind of move your aim. And this is good for like every weapon type if you're playing on controller, but I think it's especially helpful on snipers, because you know the smallest little bit does matter. Try not to get too tunnel visioned on people that you're sniping or trading snipes with. The more you're tunnel visioned on anybody, that's not good. But I feel like it happens a lot this season with snipers, because people really want to hit the shot. I do it as well, and you end up focusing way too much on somebody that's like 100 meters away that you're trying to snipe, and then there ends up being a player that like third parties you or something, and that's just not great. So try not to get too tunnel visioned on that. And then I also think body shots are very valuable, especially in team game modes, but even in solos it's great. If you hit a body shot, you know, you can use mobility and push that, and then just start that fight with 100 damage. And then in team game modes, it's really nice, because a lot of fights kind of stalemate into like, you know, both duos just trying to snipe at each other. And if you body one, that kind of like takes them out of the fight for a little bit, and it makes it easier for your team just to like team shot the other person and get a knock, or maybe you just focus on the person that's been bodied and knock them. So I think going for body shots and just getting that guaranteed damage, it doesn't feel as good as hitting headshots, but it still is like very valuable and very useful in the fight. But that is going to be it for this video. Hope you guys found this helpful, informative, interesting. Like I said, it's a hard topic to talk about, because I think when people say they want tips for snipers, they just want me to tell them something that's going to make them hit every shot. And like, that's not going to happen. But some of this like thought process stuff can help you win more of those fights, or at least think about those fights a little bit better. If you did enjoy it, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, comment down below which site you like using most on the snipers, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.